Hey everybody, you guys able to hear me okay? Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started. So first, just a few logistical things as always. First thing up, assignment 3 is due tonight. So if you have not completed assignment 3, please be sure to do that before midnight. Next, for everybody who submitted their projects for the latest checkpoint, you have a peer review assignment. So what you'll do is review someone else's project and give them some feedback. So I've just randomly assigned them. So you won't be swapping with someone. You'll just have received someone's prototype to review, and what you do is there's a quiz posted, and it's just got a few questions to answer about their prototype, and try to be as helpful as you can in terms of giving them lots of feedback and ideas, and point out the good things and the things that you think need work or that would be interesting to develop, and all of that is due by Sunday at midnight. It shouldn't take too long to actually do the filling out the survey, but you want to spend some time using their prototype, so don't wait until the last minute to do it. And once all of those are turned in, I will give everyone the feedback that the person who reviewed them gave them. I'll distribute those back. You should have received a message through Canvas with the name of the person whose prototype you'll review, and a link to the files that they submitted. So if you haven't received that and you did turn something in for the project, please let me know. Otherwise, that's where the link is. If you have trouble accessing the prototype, contact the person who made it first. And if they don't get back to you, or if it's something that's weird and neither of you can figure out what's going on, then send me a message too, and I'll try to help as best I can so that you can give them the assignment, give them the peer review back. So try to open these up, before they're due, so that we have a little bit of buffer time if there are any problems. Are there any questions about the peer review? Okay. So quick note, exam 2, which is a take-home exam covering everything from where exam 1 left off till current today. I'll post that on Thursday, and it'll be due on Tuesday. It will be mostly focused on prototyping and a little bit about evaluation. And I'm trying to make sure that it's concise. I've got it. I want to reduce it down so it doesn't take too long, and I don't want to be repetitive with things that you've already done on a quiz or reflection. So I'll post that on Thursday, and then it will be due on Tuesday. So last time we talked about analyzing evaluation data a little bit, and we were partially through the example of the study with the Survivor Buddy robot when we ran out of time. We probably won't pick back up on that today. We'll probably finish that out on Thursday, but today we're going to spend looking at prototyping tools. So we'll do prototyping tools in depth today. I posted the survey last week, kind of looking to see what your questions might be about the different tools. Here are some of the stats in terms of what people submitted, how many people and how many questions for each of the software, prototype software that's out there. I've put kind of brief answers to these questions on Canvas. I've started a discussion thread. It's just called Prototyping Software Questions. And we'll go through all of these today and look at things in detail. But these are just kind of some of the quick responses to all of these questions with some links to resources, and just so that everybody can see all of the questions in one place. And if you have questions as we go forward, please post them in this discussion thread, and then if other people have answers, you can reply or help each other out, and I'll keep an eye on it too. So I'll try to answer questions that are posted there as well as we continue forward with the project. So I'm going to start with Adobe Experience Design, Adobe XD. And we've got some specific questions for Adobe XD, so just bring those up real quick. So I'll kind of go through them in this order here, but these are some of the questions that were submitted. So some basic stuff, kind of about viewing it on different devices, and fonts and transitions and general scrolling, and some stuff about data, handling data, and advanced features. I'll post this when I post the slides. I've got some of the resources that seem to be kind of the most useful ones here listed out for Adobe XD. I think probably the most useful one is letsxd.com, which covers kind of everything in a quick summary format. Most of it's videos, but there are some articles as well, some guides to kind of get you up and running with Adobe XD. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to XD. The first thing that I want to kind of touch on, so I'll just go ahead and start a new project here. Okay, so this is just a blank prototype, and we've looked at this previously, and kind of the base concept, and we're going to talk about Figma after we talk about XD, but the two of these, they share commonalities, obviously, and so XD is a little bit more sophisticated, I would say, kind of hesitantly, in comparison to Figma. It does have the ability to do states within components, which can be really useful, but both of these struggle in the area of user input that's not clicking, or saving data, taking data in, whether that's through the keyboard or through user choices, and doing something with that data dynamically. XD and Figma both don't really allow that. So they're basically giant state machines. You've kind of got to design everything that might possibly happen ahead of time, and then move through it. So I do want to show you, just kind of starting out, if you are designing for a particular mobile platform, you may want to get UI kits here. And so there's the Apple one, the material design one, and that'll throw you to a website that will let you download those resources. Here's the iOS one. I should note that Apple is packaging everything in a DMG file, which I believe if you're on Windows, you can use like a unzipping program like 7-zip or something to unpack, to extract the actual sketch files, or not the sketch files, the actual XD files that are inside. But once you do that, that will give you kind of a good starting point. So here's what's in there. You get some templates for different things. The one I'm going to use for kind of our demos today, I'm just going to grab this iPhone one, so I'll open that up in XD. I'll take it a second. Okay, so these are, this is provided by Apple, and you can see they've got quite a bit here for iOS, kind of the styling standards there. So these are good places to start if you want a particular look or feel, and there are a lot of other libraries out there that you can also use just more generic UI rather than these specific ones. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a couple of these tabbed ones. So the easiest way to do this is just to open this template file, and then in this case I'm going to take these full artboards. So I'm just going to hold the Shift key and click on a couple of these. I'm only going to take 3 of them, and I'm just going to Command or Control C, and then I'm going to go over to my project over here and Command or Control V. I'm just going to paste them in here. And I'm going to get rid of that one that I had by deleting. So this just gives me a nice starting point. How did you get to that screen? Is the question. So this is just an XD file provided by Apple. So you can just download it from their website, which you can get to up here if you go to Get UI Kits. And so there's where you download it from. And once you download it, you'll have these files, and then when you open that up, it just gives you all of this. So all of these elements that they've made. And then I've got a separate project over here that's just blank. I'll go ahead and save that. Let's call it in class. Okay. So, and now I've just pulled these from their template file, and you can kind of see over here, they are linked to that file. So this is all just coming to us straight from Apple. So in XD, you've got 2 modes kind of here. You've got the design mode and you've got the prototype mode, which is kind of how most of these software packages work. And so you've got some options down here. So this first one is an Assets tab. So XD really tries its best to allow you to save styles and components and colors and things that you might use frequently, so that you can easily reference them and you reuse them. This also exists in Figma and in most of this kind of software. So that's what is on this Assets tab. More importantly, the Layers tab gives you an idea of kind of the artboards. So XD calls these bigger frames artboards, which represents the device at this level. And you can go into these by double-clicking on them and going in further and further. Kind of a nice tip if you want to really drill down into an element. If you hold Control or Command and then click on it, like the specific tabs down here, it'll put you all the way in this layer panel. So it's kind of a nice shortcut instead of having to negotiate with it the whole way. Also want to mention this down here at the very bottom, this little icon is the plugins tab. So you can click this plus up here and you can browse kind of this little app store of plugins of useful things that people have made that work with XD. And so I'll show you a couple of them that I have installed, but it really just depends on what you're doing as to which plugins might be helpful or not. So, okay, we've got these artboards here. There's kind of representing scenes. And what we can do is right now, we can click this play button if we want to preview it in the device. So in this case, we don't have anything hooked up, so nothing going on there. It's going to drop us in. If you're in prototype mode, you see this little home icon. That's where it will start you at. So in this case, just this first tab here. We can also we can download the Adobe XD app onto our mobile device, so on Android or iOS, and we can load the our prototypes that way. So let's see. So this is back on, I'm on iPad, and I've got the Adobe XD app open, and so if I go to my, I'm logged into the same cloud account, Adobe Cloud, and you can see it's got it there for me, telling me about that, and so there's that, it's showing that prototype for me on the mobile device. So I can just exit out of that. You can do that on your phone as well, and it's Android and iOS. If you want to do, you can do a live preview while you're designing, but you need to USB into the computer you're designing on to get that. It's kind of nice because it updates immediately. The way I was doing it this way is just linking to Creative Cloud. I'm not sure how quickly that really updates. It's probably not as nice for using it live. But anyways, back to the desktop here, actually designing. And you can just use the built-in device here on your desktop, which is pretty good. So let's really quickly, let's knock out some of these basic things. So we're in design mode here, which is kind of where we go to lay things out and create content. Let's jump into prototype mode and just show some transitions between things. So I'm going to command click on this first tab, and you'll see that when I click down there, this little blue icon appears, and I'm going to just pull on that and drag it out, and I'm going to drag it to this next screen over here. So now I've got it connected there, and over here it says, you know, what kind of trigger, so I'm just going to use a tap, and then transition and destination will be tab 2, which is what this artboard's named. So the idea being when we tap on this, it'll take us here, and then let's go ahead and go onto this artboard and grab this element, and when we tap on it, let's go back over here. So that all defaults nicely, and then let's just try that out. So we start on 1, we press 2, oops, we're not going anywhere. Let's see. So we've got it, transition, trigger is tap. Let's see. Let me try it again. Oh, because I'm on the, you guys, you should stop me when I do things like that. This is tab 1, and yeah, thank you. So I'm just going to click on that, I'm going to hit my delete key, get rid of that. So I need to do this one. It makes more logical sense that this would be linked to this here. Okay. So, and then this one, okay, that one makes a little bit of sense. All right, let's try it again. So now I click on tab 2, and I'm brought to tab 2, and I click on tab 1, I'm brought back to tab 1. So very basic transitions. You know, if you want to, you can, you know, change up how it actually does that transition. So in this case, it's just doing a dissolve, but you could slide if you'd like. Let's see what that. So there you go, sliding in a weird direction, and that was just dissolving back. So you can play with that just to transition between these artboards. That's really pretty useful to do. Let's make a popover kind of thing. I think people had some questions about that. Let me see if there's just an Apple dialog box that exists. Okay, yeah. So let's just take this guy here. Let's see if we can copy that and bring it over here. If I can put it in its own I'm going to make a frame for it separately because I'm going to make it an overlay. So let me jump to this design mode here, and then I'll make an artboard for it there, and then ooh, that's not what I want. Let me see if I can. Just putting it up here, just kind of to organize it. So let me pull up the Layers tab. I'll just say this is the popover board. So you can name these boards whatever you'd like. And then let's see if we can do this popover kind of thing. So I'm going to just go in here into, I'm going back to prototype mode. I'm going to go to, well, let me just add some text. So I'll jump back to design mode. I'm going to just put some text there, jump back to prototype. Okay, so now let's add to this when we tap it. Let's see if we can do an overlay. Choose an artboard, popover board. Okay, and so by default the animation is just slide right. Let's see what that does. Oh, okay, so see, this is kind of where it's going to position that, this green outline that we've got here. So I'm just going to drag it here. And just jump this up, and I click on that. Okay, so there's your popover. And when you click off, it dismisses it. So this is a overlay, and you could link these buttons up to do something, but right now it's just by default when you click it goes away. And so you see the animations here. That one's slide right. Probably just dissolve it quickly would be more likely. Okay. So that's just a simple example. You could see how you could leverage that to make drop-down menus, you know, all kinds of things you could do, just building on that basic technique. Let's look at something else. So let's just create a frame. I'm going to go back to design mode, and I'm just going to kind of do this independently of all these templates that I had out here. I'm going to make an artboard. I'm going to make it for the iPhone 6, 7, 8, just over here. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is let's look at scrolling a little bit. So there are a lot of ways we can scroll. I'm going to make a rectangle. And I'm going to just go ahead and give it a gray fill color. And maybe I'll round the edges. And then I'm going to do a repeat grid here. And this is just a feature that helps me quickly repeat this element in XD. So I'm going to do that. And so now I've got it here, and you can see it's going off screen. And I'm going to take this repeat grid, and I'm just going to go ahead and group it together. So it's a group, and then I'm going to, so let's just see what happens when we have this, just how it is right now. So I'm going to go over to prototype, and I'm going to click this as my home. It's going to say flow 2 because the other one's flow 1. I'm going to go ahead and click play. So here it is, and you can see I'm trying to scroll and nothing is happening there. So I'll go back over here, go into the design mode, and pick this back up. I'm going to drag this right here, and this one to right here. Oh, I'll just put that right there. How about that? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into prototype, and then I'm going to click on this group. That's not what I want. Sorry. So what I want to do is scroll these horizontally, right? So right now it's just a group of these grid items. And so we want to make it scrollable. So we're going to take it, and we could make it a component at this point, but let's just leave it as it is for the moment. Oh, there's a question. Let's see. Below the width and the height. Oh, thank you. Scrolling buttons. Okay, yeah. So here's your ability to vertical scroll. Thank you, and horizontal scroll. So we can enable that horizontal scroll. There you go. And there's the little handles. So just usually you can just put these kind of where you want them to go, like that, right? And so then, now if we preview that, so let me jump to prototype and oops. Jump back over here on this. Okay, so now we should be able to scroll through this. Well, I am not for some reason. Let's see. Let's see if this So that's not giving me turn off that real quick. It's not scrolling as expected. Let's see. I was looking for a overflow. See if I have just a second. Okay, let's try let me just get rid of that real quick. Let's first take a more basic approach. So I'm going to put a shape out there again. And let me repeat grid on that. So this time I'm just going to use the canvas to start with. Okay. So I've got just my canvas here. Let's see if I have the prototyping properties. Okay, so we've got vertical scrolling enabled here. Let's see if that actually works as we'd expect. So I'm not getting any scrolling there. I apologize for this. It's probably something very obvious that I'm missing. Let's see if that gives us the scroll we were hoping for. Okay, so there's at least our vertical scroll on the overall device. So we can also enable that to go horizontally as well. So I can just pick both of them if I'd like it to go both directions, which will give you kind of the ability to kind of pan scan around like that. But you can also you can make distinct rows, and I don't want to spend too much time messing with it, but let's see if I can do this real quick. So if I make this so that it gives me just horizontal scrolling, and let me so yeah, you don't have to go to prototype to preview it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just had this extra interaction flow on here. That's why I keep jumping back to prototype to make sure it launches the right one, because it's launching the other one when I'm doing it just from the other tab. But yeah, in general, you don't have to. They just added this multi-flow feature so that you can have multiple entry points. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Let's jump over to Figma and see a similar thing over there while we're thinking about this. So I'm in Figma now, and so Figma has both the web version and the desktop app, and I've got the desktop version of it here running on my computer, but they're pretty much the same. So I'm going to just go ahead and create a new project file here, just with nothing in it. So Figma is similar. It calls the artboards frames, but the frames are also kind of nice because they can be nested, so that can be quite useful when you're trying to set things up. So let's look at kind of a similar concept within Figma in terms of scrolling. So let's just go ahead, and I should say, just kind of basics. Figma's got these two tabs, assets and layers. The assets either are things that you have in this file, or if you've done the upgrade, which is kind of to the pro plan, you can get it free as a student. You have access to teams, so your team can publish component libraries. So I've got like iOS 12 from something that I had in the past, but that's just what's showing up there. And also you can download stuff from the community as well in Figma. But so here's the Layers tab, similar to Layers in XD. And here are your tools in Figma. So Shape Tools, let's just put a rectangle out there. And then go ahead and, I should say, in Figma, just in general, to preview something, just hit this button here. It's going to open it up in a separate tab for me to preview, which it doesn't do anything right now, so there's a nice box. You can use the Figma Mirror app, and the way it works is basically if you log in to it just tries to show whatever your current selected frame is. So let me see if I can pull it up. So since this is on an iPad, it's responsively scaling it, but it live updates, so I'm moving it around over here in the editor, and is moving it in on the iPad view. So you can put it on your phone and set it up for the device that you're targeting, and that can make that a little bit easier while you're designing things. So, or you can just have the web version open. Either way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take kind of this square. I'm just going to copy and paste a few of them here. Kind of get the same thing going on. So it's going off the screen there. And so what I'm going to do with these is I'm just going to grab them all, and I'm going to go ahead and make them a group. And then in Figma, I'm going to say frame selection. And so that will put this within a frame, and you can see that all happening over here. And so once I have the frame, I can choose to clip content that is outside of the frame. And so I'll just size it appropriately there. And then I can go into my prototype mode and choose the overflow behavior on my scroll. So in this case, I'll do horizontal scrolling. Let me go ahead and preview that. And so you can see it's scrolling horizontally there. And you can continue to nest things in that way. So you could get a whole nice grid, and if you use kind of this frame approach, right? Let me see if I can just copy and paste. Like this, right? Kind of the benefit that you can get is that they independently have a nice scroll. Oh, so there's a question, do you have to put a frame in a frame to create things like scrolling? Yes, you kind of do. So the base artboard itself is a frame, and so content will scroll in and out of its viewport, kind of just naturally using that frame. But if you want like these different viewports within your main viewport, then you put frames within frames. So it's kind of nice because you can kind of get more of a grid thing, and then you could scroll vertically too, like the whole nested thing. If you want kind of a nice grid layout, like something like if you think like Netflix or some kind of interface like that. So I do want to show you. Let's go back to XD real quick, and let's look at kind of a feature. Oh, another question. Okay, so even if the frame on top isn't within the initial frame, I'm not sure what do you mean by the initial frame for the scrolling. The frame on top isn't within the initial frame. Like the initial kind of artboard. Let's see. So like we've got this larger frame here. Yeah. Yeah, it should still scroll. Because it's really just, like this frame group that I have selected here is no different really than this frame group. This one's just kind of, this one's provided when we choose it. Okay, so let's look at in XD something that XD has that Figma doesn't, which are states, and this has to do with components. So Figma does have components, so I can make, take some objects, group them together, call them a component, and then I can make instances of that component that will inherit any design changes I make to the master component, and then I can also override, specific instances. So this is really convenient if you have like some widget that you repeat over and over throughout your interface. But what XD has that Figma doesn't is the idea of having states within your components. So let me just go ahead and I'm just going to open a new project here. And let's just do a quick example of states. So I'm going to take the text tool here. I'm going to say state 1, and then I'm going to put another text element, and I'll call it state 2. Okay. I'm just going to drag these like this, and I'm going to take them, I'm going to select both of them, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to group them, and then I'm going to click on that, I'm going to right click on that group, maybe, I'll do it over here, and I'll click make component. So now they're a component. You can see the green outline indicating that they are a component. And when I do that, I get this, this menu over here for states. So, and we have the default state. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say new state, and I'm going to call this one state 2. Okay, so I'm going to select state 1, and then I'm going to select the text here. And let's make the text red whenever I'm in state 1. And then let's go to state 2, and when we're in state 2, we want the state 2 text to be red. And we want the state 1 text to be gray. Okay. So, and you can see that I toggle between those just here, right? Like that. Okay, so now let's look. Let's go into prototype. Let's just grab this state 1 button. We'll click this, and we can say transition. In this case, we don't want to transition anywhere. Like if we're in state 1 and we click on state 1, we don't need to do anything. So we don't actually need to make that transition. So let's look at state 2 text, and let's add for it a transition that puts us in state 2 when we click on state 2. And then in a similar way, when we're in state 2, if we click on state 1, let's make that take us to the default state, which is our state 1. Okay. So now, when we play this and we click, we bounce between them, right? We're switching states. Now, what's really nice about that, though, is that because this is a component, I can copy, paste, and I've made an instance of the component now. Let me move it out of the way real quick. Okay, so I've got a copy of it, right? And these are independent. So when I run this, that functionality is just grouped there. And anywhere I want to put that functionality, I have that with this state behavior. And obviously you can take this a lot further and do a lot of more complicated things with this. So let's close that. Let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to be sure to do before I move on to the next thing. Drop-down boxes. I wanted to mention that you can make those easily using all of these techniques combined, and I did provide a link to an article specifically about that that's on letsxd.com, which is really good. Okay, so let's see. Let me see if there are any Figma questions that I wanted to make sure to cover live. Okay, so I should say for Figma, some of the good resources, the Figma website, the documentation, so this site here, Use Figma, is really good. A lot of detail on anything that you want to do with Figma. You can find it there. Okay, so let me talk about really quick user input. So both XD and Figma don't support using like the keyboard for input or calculating variables at runtime. But what you can do is use another tool. So you can do your designs in Figma or XD, and then you can feed those into one of these other tools that will let you do those things. So the one that I've found the best to use in terms of functionality and the fact that we can use it fully functional for free as students is ProtoPie. So I just want to show you an example of what you can do in ProtoPie. It's full prototyping software, so you can do everything that we did in the others, but kind of where it goes beyond what the others would do. So this is just a simple text field and a button, right? So first of all, it has text entry elements, and when I'm in the preview over here and I click on this field, I get a native system keyboard, and I can type in something, click submit, and then I can update my interface based on those variables. So ProtoPie has the ability to have variables that are calculated. You can do a lot of things in terms of when you're on an actual device. You can use sensor inputs. You can do a lot more with the animation and really customize things. So, and you can import from Adobe XD and Figma and kind of use this as a way to add some more functionality. So I would encourage you to look more at this and kind of explore if it has what's possible. Now it doesn't really, none of these tools really support saving data so much in the prototype mode. So like typically what you'll do is you'll load in default data when the prototype session starts, and if you're using a tool like ProtoPie, like I typed hello and it preserved that, right? But as soon as I reload this prototype, that's going to go away. So the data just kind of exists for the session and gets reset at the start. That's typically how you would do it with a prototype. If you need to save it out more and have the user kind of re-engage and use it over time, then you probably need to build specifically to do that. So you might start to use web technologies at that point to be able to save data out somewhere and to reinstate it. But I do think it's disappointing that XD and Figma don't have the ability to do kind of calculated variables and input within the session, because it's really useful for a lot of apps to have that. So I think ProtoPie is kind of a nice concession. Some others that you can use, I've got listed here. There's Anima, Proto.io, and Proto.io. So those have plugins in Figma and XD that allow them to be exported. So, for example, the Anima plugin here will let me add Anima specific features to my prototype, and then when I click preview in browser, it sends it to Anima and it adds in like input fields and things that I can't do within XD, but it does throw you out of XD. And then of course you can export HTML. So there are a couple plugins for that within XD and Figma. There's web export that allows you to do that. And then Anima and Proto.io both allow you to do an HTML export. It's generated HTML, but it is a good starting point, I guess, if you want to go further with that. So those can be useful plugins for that kind of thing. Certainly, if you're going to a web app before it's all over, you might want to look at these export things to make that easier. We'll say Anima and Proto.io are free at a low level, so I'm not entirely sure what's included in the free plan and versus the paid plan. They do offer some academic discounts, but I don't think it's not like an entirely free free use kind of thing like you would get with ProtoPie. So that's kind of why I recommend ProtoPie for that. So that's one way to deal with kind of the limitations of XD or Figma, is to use something like ProtoPie or to export to web and add the functionality that you need there. And what you really want to think about, though, while you're in this process of designing and evaluating, is what it is that your app is focused on, what it is that you would benefit from getting the most feedback from. If your app only has like text input as just a tiny part of it, right? Like it's not the main user flow. You could just tell the person testing it you're not going to be able to type in text, and when they click on the text field, it just populates for them, right? As long as you make them aware of that, and that's something that's not going to affect your evaluation of the thing you're making, then that's a workaround. The other workaround that you can kind of do is if you have specific features that like XD doesn't support or something, you could build just that portion of it in something else for testing. So you could have a user evaluate the navigation of the app completely using the XD prototype, and then you could have them separately evaluate inputting data using like a web approach that you built, or using a ProtoPie prototype that you built. So you can kind of do trade-offs here, where you do kind of in-depth prototypes depending on the functionality in different pieces of software. Obviously that makes your evaluation more complicated, and it's not as nice as having a final packaged thing at the end. So it's kind of up to you as to what you want to do there. So I think that pretty much covers the basics of what I wanted to look at today. Like I said, I have published some more specific answers to all of these questions on the course website, and I've tried to link helpful resources that explain it. So I think kind of the main takeaway is that you can do a lot of nice navigation things, a lot of nice animation, and even a little bit of statefulness with Figma and XD. But when you start to look at like typing in content using the keyboard, or trying to dynamically generate something based on what the user's doing, then you might benefit from moving towards something like ProtoPie, which you can do. You can import the things you've made in Figma or XD into that and use that as a starting point, so you get a little bit of a head start there. And then if you need to save data and be able to restore sessions and things like that, then you really kind of want to start to write code to do that. So I think we'll wrap up there. We'll finish a little bit early today, and I would encourage you to keep working on your prototypes. Of course, do the peer evaluations, and as you run into things, post them on this discussion thread, and I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll answer the questions as they come through, and anybody else who wants to jump in and answer as well can do that. Okay, so we will, here's our action items for today. So we're here. Homework due tonight. If you haven't done it already, please get that in. Exam will come out on Thursday, will be due on Tuesday, and your peer review is due by Sunday night. So next time we will meet, we'll be on WebEx for Thursday this week, and I'll let you know if anything changes there, and I'll let you know on Thursday what our plan is for the next week. Right now, we're still kind of in a place where we need to be virtual, unfortunately. So that's everything I have. Do Do you guys have any questions? Okay, well, in that case, everybody have a good day, and I will see you guys or talk to you guys on Thursday.